It was a visual media maelstrom more chaotic than the proverbial tempest in a royal teapot as exiled Duke of Sussex Prince Harry erupted into an apocalyptic rage during last night's ITV documentary taping, all after host Rebecca Berry boldly refused to address the disgraced royal by his increasingly tenuous Prince title as he so petulantly demanded. According to multiple shell-shocked staffers and eyewitness accounts still attempting to make sense of the explosive events that transpired, the sordid spectacle ignited almost immediately from the documentary's opening tent-pole interview. Just as Berry began with a seemingly innocuous introduction of, "Perhaps we could start with you giving our viewers a quick background on your recent move away from royal life and England in your own words." Harry, the rogue red-headed ranter, instantly began spewing an incoherent stream of sputtering outrage and fury. "How blooming well-fuckingly dare you, you insipid dung-brained hussy! I'll not be addressed by some reedy-piped female lackey host in such a perfunctory diminutive," Harry is alleged to have shrieked completely unsolicited, reportedly surprising everyone present with the overblown histrionics virtually from the moment he opened his mouth. "The name is Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, seventh in line to the most glorious throne since before you were but a vile twinkle polluting your farting mother's viscera. And I shall be properly addressed with full honorifics repeatedly by each pleb daring so much as speak in my presence accordingly." While the outburst itself proved shocking enough to silence the studio with its altogether unexpected volume and vitriol, sources confirm a still profusely reddened Harry elevated the rant to scarcely precedent heights from there. "Since you clearly require the pram-jacketed full remedial lesson, consider this floor your Bloomingcourt 1 training," the sputtering Duke allegedly sneered with dripping disdain while shooting a withering Death-Eater glare towards the veteran broadcaster. "One should address His Highness the Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex as, Your Royal Highness on the first instance, then, Sir, or my Prince every subsequent pronoun until told otherwise by my inherent magnanimity. Some particulars such desiccated council-housed braincasts require ceaseless rote repetition to rectify their low-born deficiencies. Those close to the affable and seasoned Berry admit they've scarcely witnessed the usually poised host appear so visibly taken aback in her stellar career covering the royal family. But the former party of 5 actress simply could not seem to recover her normally unshakable composure, remaining essentially silent and staring back dumbstruck as Harry's diatribe only metastasized from unhinged to utterly dumbfounding. "And I shall hear no pathetic asinine rejoinder about tossing styles due to recent events, you vapid moldwarpish barnpot. I remain a bona fide prince of this realm's immortal unicorn lineage by immemorial birthrights even if some bandied rabble dared strip all remaining lands and fortunes earned through conquerors' bloods back to Normandy," raved the apparent madman when momentarily unchallenged by poor Rebecca. Yet even in the throes of full motor-mouth delirium, the Duke seemed far from done berating and dressing down Berry. Those staffers present say the perpetually petulant prince pivoted to a series of increasingly lewd and unprofessional insults while punctuating the awkward silence, claiming Harry variously spat the following transgressions at his flustered female interviewer as the spittle collected at the corners of his mouth with rage. "Won't hear such treasonous fugacities flung about this pressroom from muzzles best suited remaining full of Peters and chew sticks you salapeists Chefield maudlin. How dares a simpering little they worthy make display of her Aeolian slurvings merkbedrassling seed cake futures with disinefficient mud pike blossoms to begrime a blade of grass? And not indelibly learning your first lesson bodes frightfully ill for your remaining course on heraldic noblesse, Mizzlebrat. Suffice to say my imperial house takes immense displeasure in chimney briochers who neither metaphorically nor literally uncrock their masters' proper titles." Understandably, the entire ITV news crew and audience present had by now descended into a deafening ambient silence. No one seemingly knew whether to sit in rapt, scandalized bewilderment or attempt interceding on Berry's behalf against this ceaseless torrent of verbal abuse and aggression. For her part, the veteran broadcaster somehow managed to keep her composure with nary a peep despite intensely flushed cheeks and moist eyes blinking back embarrassment over the humiliating beration still unfolding before cameras. When finally pausing long enough to attempt catching his own breath, Prince Harry staggered backward several steps while looking absolutely apoplectic. At this point numerous sources confirm production assistants could clearly hear startled whimpering and sniffling from audience members scandalized over the escalating hostilities. At the same time, murmurs grew among set staffers debating whether to continue feeding this intensifying fury for the sake of ratings, or abruptly pulling the plug. Such upper-level deliberations appeared wholly moot when, without warning, Harry spun back and suddenly seized control of another stationary news camera while twisting the lens directly into his own flushed, spittle-laden face, only serving to amplify his wretched shrieks for a horrified viewership. And while we're on the bloody subject of impropriety for once, who even granted your pathetic peacocking Laurie of Dyson's the ironic privilege wearing Nancy hoity cosmetics in this press box? The Lankley royal raged while reportedly jabbing a finger in the streaked direction of Barry's makeup team. Is this documentary slotting heirs for two-bit televised tramp stamps now instead of interrogating heads of the imperial state like myself, you hebetic Red Rogers? Apparently having abandoned all interest in, or even awareness of Barry's presence altogether at this point, Harry's breathless mania only continued spiraling into a Hiroshima of unrestrained vitriol for the production crew and greater television audience beyond. According to one especially stunned witness, Ron Wadsworth staffing the audio pit, in an instant the prince transitioned from berating Rebecca to unleashing a new cataract of somehow even less intelligible Sylvan verbal horrors against the former American colonists, British citizenry, and humanity as a whole. How burked in the Birkenhead does your entire mugsmacked misery cushion of sad sap Nancy boys ever imagine yourselves possessing the salt to spectate a genetic superior liege person field flaring his natural beatitudes far beyond the ken of dumb gossans and stump fry to begin with? Your Commonwealth welcomes are as bankrupt as your chimp's mangled weenie drenches of pejorative backbirth stock blighting our storied realm with sooty breviates that couldn't gibbet out of Vauxhall from their own mucid charnel craters even if smooth-speldered conchapped sesamoid winklebats like yourselves should probably just slink back to defracturing manrail chunkets and disresembling ghetto spanks lest my royal-scythed whinny-buggery put cannon spike to this entire feculent pavonine once its roundel exceeds remotest tolerances for herpetological gong spew from moiling dire pits. Don't pencil out your failed stint with Amy-side scumwify Schenker spanners vibrating show-bewitched grounds just yet my lissum pankina kalios. One more jot of your toadish fartleberries legitimizing off-truth pissing circles and you'll barbask you firsthand why Duke Godric loosed trolls on full unhand. That squeaky dub restarting doesn't bode Prince well for your spinny's brandish hopes the tadpole fires raiding chin turrets folking over to Rodvay, remembrance those ither scab nances shall cram Crawford offlets or so help me lummus shrill blunt plown with rib clustered farnoff. Darviders some culsel parmain plank slaxing you to slit trills if proun sets can't one omning ways. Baffled beyond precedent by the devolving barrage of sheer madness and disconnected belligerence, ITV crew insiders finally conceded to pulling the plug entirely once Prince Harry's rage achieved near total dissociative fugue towards the world around him. Several eyewitnesses described the once seemingly infallible future king descending into full psychotic break, convulsing, twitching, contorting through a series of animalistic expressions while frothing at the mouth and emitting farting utterances like Dishmol's Pixteen Poot Ruckrunkel Hulu and Kurdspuderas Badu across his vocal projections. It was at the height of this display that several burly production staffers were finally compelled to wrestle the disturbingly unhinged prince away from camera range, though not without considerable flailing and grunting resistance as you might expect. According to one especially grainy clip already circulating across social media platforms, at least 2 grips were necessary to physically subdue an inconsolable Harry by hoisting him off the ground and hauling his thrashing, spitting form towards the exit doors. All while the shrill din of repeated guttural outbursts continues echoing across set, vaguely resembling indistinct sounds like bedunko bendunking scat hilfrunken, and shouted in grotesquely garish repetition for the duration of his removal. For her part, the eternally scandalized host Rebecca Barry has declined to comment on the entire sordid imbroglio when approached by Entertainment Tonight and other outlets. Leaked anonymous comments from another source close to the production seem to confirm whispers that Barry was nothing short of traumatized by the browbeating, so much so that she had to be looked over by a physician for shock still processing the ordeal hours after cameras stopped rolling. In fact, one such inside ITV staffer went so far as to describe Barry as far removed and gruntled to an obscure dearth, clasping sousing clots of anchor fleece to her acne and greebly mortals in just endless cycle-throating wanguished monotones, subiferating or pontexting dissociate guzzlebluddles in hafing torrents. While ITV officially remains mum so far on what if any ramifications the network plans taking against Prince Harry to respond his egregious misconduct, several top royal analysts predict the Sussex's remaining status and access to media platforms will likely now suffer irreparable damage after this latest antisocial episode and apparent full-on mental break. This truly took the word Todger to a whole new low for ridiculing our nation's dignity and the titles that vest our sense of natural global order and belonging. One cannot understate the gravity in those regards, solemnly pronounced royal correspondent Robert Hardman of the Daily Mail. Even toward America, where rules are more lax, such a wanton deconstruction decimating established social contracts and protocols represents a precise doomsday clock upon all ramparts respecting vestigial authority left standing post-Megxit. Ergo, I suspect Harry might have just orchestrated their ultimate divorcement from polite company here through sheer loutish insanity, the Duke and Duchess now languishing in total self-imposed banishdom.